in the past, it was required that Job's daughters had a Masonic affiliation. In other words, they had to have a blood relative or a marriage relative that was a Master Mason. That rule has shifted a bit.
That rule has shifted. So
as you heard in this demonstration in regards to the bloodline, the law being changed or switched or revised from the origin. You can go to the playlist and see in our appendix or our minutes in regards to the Pike daughters. The children of the Pike daughters, they have the authority, the perpetual authority over the southern jurisdiction, beyond the grave from Albert Pike. But now they're speaking of the Job's daughters, and they're saying the law has been changed from you don't have to be the bloodline. You can just have a reference from someone. But no, the bloodline is more potent. And this man is saying that his children and him, in regards to the Job's daughters, is through what? Affiliation of someone giving a cosign for him. But if he's not bloodline, he can't supersede the power of those that are the bloodline. Lizzie Bell Pike, Rebecca Jane Pike, Benjamin Pike. And that is from my bloodline. So that supersedes. They also really showed themselves when they showed this logos in regards to the crescent. But this is what they say, de Molay or Jacques de Molay, where they speak of the Inquisition, the Christian crusades against Islam. And that's exactly what it is. You see a crown, but in regards to the crown, there's a fez on the inside, and that fez is Moorish. It is the Christian Inquisition, the colonization against the Moors. In regards, we already have this in the minutes too. In regards to Kenneth the Moor, one Christian Scottish Moor can kill 3 Moors. You can go look at the short we have up. It has a white shell with a red cross in the middle. And I do the reading in regards to the bloody red cross is celebration of the defeat over the Moors. Also, when looking into the so-called Job's daughters, it says they are to teach of how to be good citizens or teach citizenship. But they're not teaching nationality. To be in the nation of families in regards to citizenship, you have to respect and honor each other as nations, honoring your foremother and forefather, your bloodline, which proves they're not honoring bloodline because now they're not bringing people in that is of the bloodline of the Scottish Rite because Scottish is a nationality. They're supposed to teach that. But instead, they have these children calling themselves white. They're calling themselves colored. Even the European pale skins who are not honoring their bloodline, they're calling themselves white, which is a color. So they're acting as colored people now. When they're not honoring their foremothers and forefathers. That's the greatest sin that you could ever commit, is not honoring your foremothers and forefathers. And that can't be stressed enough. All the nations of the world agree. Nationality is of paramount importance to the realization of fundamental rights. Those are your rights that can't be bought, sold, or transferred, licensed, or for a fee or a feudal fine, or in any of that. You can't be charged with the crime for exercising your right to human rights, the right to movement, the right to water, food, clothing, shelter, adequate living. That's what all the people that's coming from South America to North America is doing. They're exercising their human rights. That's why they can step over someone that's lived here their whole life, calling themselves white. They're able to step over them and go into a building and have adequate living because they're not calling themselves colors that delude to slavery. They're identifying themselves with a nationality that gives them a birthright, and they're from South America, so they are in fact Americans. See, they need to be teaching this stuff in the Job's daughters. I mean, they're the ones who brought up citizenship. And just because you're born somewhere doesn't make you from there. Like I said, if I was born and raised in Japan, I'm not going to be running around calling myself Japanese. I would be looked at as crazy. And that's what you all are doing. This is all in the previous minutes. But it's just responding to this de Molay, which immediately refers to the Inquisition, the colonization, and the holy war of Christianity against Islam in regards to Moses with the Holy Land. When he came upon that Holy Land, what happened? The Canaanites was already there. The Canaanites, the Moabites, the descendants of Ruth, and that's the descendant of Jesus. Jesus came from the descendant of Ruth, which was a Moabite, and then also the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, their brethren Amorites. That's what I'm saying. He came upon a land that was already someone's land. And through what? The 10 Commandments is how the rich rule over the poor. That land was taken. And that has to do with this de Molay. because this was the Inquisition, just like today, trying to get position over the Holy Land, which in fact was already the Canaanites' land. But by them saying, oh, well, they wasn't baptized or they wasn't following the religion that we have, then they was savages or they was heathen, is what they would say. If they was not following what they was following, they had every right. We also have the minutes of the Pope saying anything you get from them Muslims, take it as booty and prize and reward and payment for the Inquisition assistance. And this man that they say was burnt, they have him as a melanated man. And Molay is Moorish, because the Hindustanis, in regards to the so-called Indians, when they do their dances, their Ali Mola, they will spin counterclockwise with the red fez on. While all the Indians and stuff, they sing Ali, 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 Mola, Ali, 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 Mola. Ataifa, and they're spinning counterclockwise with their Moorish fez on. But there was 14 India princes who assisted Great Britain and England in the conquest. So right here they show the man, he's a melanated man. And Molay is Moorish, as I was telling you about the Muslim dervish. However, he's got the red cross on his chest celebrating the bloody cross of the victory over the Moors. So was he burned because he was a dirty Moor? Because he was a Morisco? The ones helping the conquest against his own brother, because that's how a lot of the slavery was they go trap their own brother and then sell him to the European. Watch your own brothers, Moors, because they can put you back into slavery.
You can be initiated with a Masonic family connection, or you can be sponsored by a Master Mason, which essentially means that they're vouching for you and agreeing to be that sponsorship for you.
After you
So in closing, in regards to the transcripts or minutes in the playlist, we broke down the Pike authority through the bloodline of the Pike daughters, and then now they're trying to bring forth a Job's daughters where you don't even have to be of the bloodline. But in regards to what you would call an authority or a charter or what have you, Albert Pike's authority is for life, perpetual beyond the grave to the Pike daughters through the bloodline, through the seed, the perfected seed of Allah. Adepts are born, not made. It's in the bloodline. The Pikes will always go and seek forth for the truth of light. As soon as he came in contact with John Drew, who is in connection with Noble Drew Ali, who was the Moorish prophet, as soon as he came in contact with John Drew, that's when immediately he knew about nationality in regards to the Scottish rite. Then he went to Canaan land in regards to the Scottish rite for his nationality. He knew the white and the black caste system was over with. And if two or more Europeans go off to do something, they're going to tear it up. And one way that is if one goes and vouches for another and they're not even of the bloodline, trying to act like they have more authority over someone that's of the bloodline. They're not even honoring their nationality, so it makes it void ab initio from the first point. That's why these Masons wouldn't say what they say to me if Albert Pike was standing in the room with them, because it's bloodline, nationality. But being able to vouch enables those of the York rite or foreign rites to come amalgamated and be able to what they would call COINTELPRO inside of the Scottish Rite. That's why you have the Holy Bible within the Scottish Rite now. But the Holy Bible is not to be used as the Scottish Rite Code, and that's from the words of Albert Pike. He said that book is used for the perpetration of every wrongdoing of a man. He said that by his words. And now you have the York Rite amalgamated as agents inside of the Scottish Rite. The so-called head man at Albert Pike's temple in Washington, D.C. said that he was not dug up and put in the building wall, which is a direct lie. He was buried in Oak Hill Cemetery. His remains was taken from Oak Hill Cemetery and put inside of this building so that y'all can get revenue to come in, and made a memorial, which he said in his will not to do. Also in my studies, it came up in regards to a lot of the manuscripts that Albert Pike had was burnt, but truth does not change nor pass away. So when you hear them saying that their laws have been changed or switched, truth does not change nor pass away. But the ancient gnosis is still in possession, in custodianship. The Cornish temple, in regards to chapter 45, verse 9 of the Moorish Quran, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice is to be taught to all nations in all lands. And the Moorish manuscripts predate what you would call the Torah, which the Christian Bible pulls its gnosis from. So the Moorish manuscripts predate, again, the Torah, and it also ties back to what you would call the so-called Egyptian mystery system. Noble Drew Ali was an Egyptian adept, but also Caliph Ali is who instituted the Shriners, and the Knights Templar, the Masons, and all them are subordinate to the Shriners. It was instituted by Caliph Ali, and there's not supposed to be no oaths. There's not supposed to be no secrets. That's why Noble Drew Ali said he came to take the veil off of all secret societies, because if two or more of them go off and do something, they're going to tear it up, and that's what they did. They have allowed those that are of the York Rite or different settings to amalgamate their practices into the Scottish Rite in regards to the Masonic Bible. That is not to be used as their code, as I said before. You have amalgamation of these different temples bringing all their different practices in to the Scottish Rite that originally wasn't there. And they say publicly, oh, well, that law was changed, or over time it was switched up. They're admitting that they're not holding the truth, because the truth does not change nor pass away. And they're not teaching the principle of nationality with citizenship, and that they are not home. Their home is in, if they're saying they're Scottish, they can't be sovereign in America. They got to go to so-called Scotland, right? Because it ties to their land of origin. If they're Irish, they got to tie back to their so-called island of Ireland, which really came from the Moorish Barbary pirates. Our land, that's where our comes from. These people's going to see, though, they can have their nice shiny temples and all that, but Allah's the best of planners, and that's why Albert Pike's bloodline is here speaking to you, telling you that they are in grave error. I repeat, they are in grave error. Caveat emptor.